Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Your Money, where we are trying to help you earn money, save money, and protect your money. And for a good portion of the last 7 months we've been doing this, we've been talking to CPAs, especially in the last 3 months in particular, getting you ready for tax season and tax preparation. And here we are on April 15th, and it's almost over. So with that, I can't believe that we scored Joe Greene today, given the day that we have. I feel badly, but I want to thank you for joining us all the same. Mm-hmm. This is, how are you doing, by the way?
I'm good. It's a beautiful day, Adam. Tax day happens to also be beautiful outside, but yeah, it's a good day.
Is this a celebration in the tax world right now?
I would say in the tax world generally, maybe like tomorrow, I would say. It depends a little bit on what's on the plate today, any kind of last minute stuff. And maybe you're a little too out of gas to celebrate today, and then you wake up tomorrow and the birds are chirping and a little bit more of that kind of stuff.
There you go. Joe Greene, by the way, with Evans and Bennett in town, certified CPA, and do you do both personal and business taxes?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so you got business, and the fact is, you're probably watching this. This airs in the evening, and folks are going to watch this and go, "Oh my God, I didn't realize the date," or the procrastinators out there. We're going to talk about what they can do, but is there even time right now? I mean, should you even try to make it? Is there a deadline today that you should even try to make?
Yeah, I mean, if you are, yes, you have the opportunity to extend your tax return at any point in time up until end of the day today. You can do that electronically. There's mailing options as well. I would certainly, this late in the game, recommend electronically. But yes, you can extend your return, and even if you don't know much yet, even if you just extend it, then you're not late filing. You might have late payment penalties going on there potentially if you have to owe on your taxes. But even just extending your return, which again extends the time you have to file, it doesn't extend the time you have to pay. It's not a interest rate loan from the government. It's just to give you more time to finish your paperwork kind of thing. But yes, even today, you could extend your return and give yourself more time to finalize everything or plan strategically, perhaps.
I guess, do you even have time to file today? I mean, can you still file?
Extensions are easy. They make
no,
it...
I'm sorry, not file for extension. Could you file your taxes today, or is that...
Oh, yeah. Adam, when we're done here, I have one or two things to clean up, and then I'm working on my tax return. So yes.
Are you serious?
Yes, I still have to file my tax return, yes.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
My wife is very excited about that fact, yes. Yeah.
So you do have time to still do it today if need be.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is good. What's that? Is it midnight is the official deadline?
Yeah.
Wow. But the extension, we were talking about this before the show started, and I've known this. My dad, I keep mentioning it. He remains a CPA, and he does so many extensions. And there shouldn't be a stigma attached. Just a lot of people do it.
A lot of people do it. There's misconceptions out there that means you think, oh, you're more likely to be audited. That's
interesting.
That's certainly not true.
You get that concern from folks?
You hear that sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's a red flag to the IRS if you couldn't file on time. None of that's true. So case in point, earlier in my career, so now I work on individual small businesses, that type of thing. Earlier in my career, when I was working for one of the largest tax firms in the world, global, we're working with like global companies, publicly traded, all that kind of stuff. Literally every return we did, we extended.
Wow. How come?
I mean, those are only corporate returns in that scenario, like big business entities, but literally across the board, every one of them that we do extended. Because it just allows you more time to plan strategically, both for, in this case, if we're extending the 2025 return, you get a 6-month extension. So if it's June, July, August, you have a better sense of how 2025 ended up.
Oh, that's interesting.
But then you also, more importantly, know how 2026 is going. So you have a better idea of kind of both years. So you know where you want to, if you can, legally, shift income or deductions one year or the other, because you kind of have both years to play with, so to speak. Which also applies for personal returns as well. If you know you're making more money in one year versus the other, you can kind of shift dollars when and where you can.
And is it free to extend?
Free to extend, with the caveat being it's an extension of filing the return. Yeah. It's not an extension to pay. So you have to have pretty good idea, or go a little bit too high in your estimates to avoid penalties and that type of thing. You want to go a little bit too high in your extension payment if you think you're going to be owing taxes.
And they'll give it back to you if you were wrong.
And then it counts towards the return. Yep. So then if you went too high, then it becomes a refund when you eventually file.
That's interesting. And so you kind of have to almost like half do your taxes, right? Like before you extend?
You have to have a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Or if you happen to have a pretty good idea that you normally get a refund.
Oh, of course.
If you normally get a refund, then you can do a $0 extension today and then file later and just get the refund later. Now you would, like, ideally, if nothing else is changing, maybe you'd want to get the refund sooner. But if you want to maximize all your opportunities, you want more time, maybe there's pieces of information that are outside of your control.
Right.
So if you have investments and you're receiving K1s and those entities don't get that to you until late in the year, it's sort of out of your hands. So then you extend until you have all the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, I would think if you think you're getting a refund,
you want the cash if you can.
Come on.
Yeah.
Get it sooner. What do the penalties look like if you end up owing money?
They apply interest on it. There's like late filing fees and penalties. Depending on the size of the return, it probably matters more to get it right. So I would encourage, if there's anyone out there that hasn't extended yet, to extend, even if it's $0, to avoid one type of penalty, basically.
Yeah. What if you don't do anything? I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous, but like...
Yeah, no, that happens for sure. Yeah. Then it's late filing on top of potentially late payment penalties on top, and they put percentages, and it goes up over time and all that kind of good stuff.
And, you know, I was reading an article saying that there's kind of this movement, if you will, of more people saying, well, they have the impression that the IRS is staffed poorly right now.
Sure.
They're not going to collect. But is that not the case? I mean, will they eventually get their money?
Yeah. I mean, it might take them longer to reach out to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would not have a strategy based around pulling a fast one on the government is where I would go with that.
Because they have a lot of tools. I've talked to enough folk within your circle, and the message that I got is they can reach right into your bank account and grab your money.
Yeah, they'll. There's a lot of things they might do well, they might do poorly, but there's still, accounts receivable for the U.S. government. So I think they don't have as many tools as you would like, and their technology isn't as good as you would like, but that's not a path I would recommend.
I was also reading an article actually this morning talking about how more people are getting bigger refunds than they have in the past. Is that the case this year?
Yeah, I would say there's been some of the tax reform that went on. It depends on the type of client and their circumstances and this type of thing. But yeah, we're certainly seeing more refunds, I would say, seems to be a common trend. So the flip side of that is that often just meant you withheld too much on your return, or you withheld too much on your paycheck over the course of the year. So it's always a funny dynamic when I'm telling a client, like, oh, you got this big refund at the end of the year, which means, like, yes, this is great to get cash in your hands now, but it also meant, like, you put too much money out of your pocket over the course of the year, whereas maybe next year we withhold less, so we aren't giving the government an interest-free loan for 6 months or what have you.
Now, if you do withhold quite a bit, and you know that you are going to owe at the end of the year, and sometimes you get hit with too big of a bill, I've heard circumstances where you can kind of pay throughout the year. What does that look like?
Yeah, so you would, if you file the return, you're avoiding any type of late filing penalty. You might just be underpaid. So then you'd have penalties on how much you are underpaid, but that would be only based on that remaining dollar amount, and you avoid any of the additional penalties if you filed nothing. So they put different penalties and different percentages on kind of the type of penalty. So if you avoid the no filing penalty, then you're only paying interest on the balance, basically. So that's a better scenario than doing nothing.
All right. Advice for people, let's say they got through this year, advice for folks who can start over right now on April 16th as they get ready for tax season 2027.
Yeah. Tax season 2026. No. Yeah. 7.
Yeah.
What year is this? See, I'm doing 25 returns, so I'm already
That's-
I'm a year behind.
You're probably
I'm sorry.
right.
I'm
Though.
sorry.
That's probably the right way to go. Next year's tax season.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. What day is it?
I actually had to sign some important paperwork this morning, and I couldn't stop saying April 16th for some reason. I was like, I had to constantly, I crossed out an initial like 5 times. Anyway, so next season, but we kind of get a reset button. Recommendations for folks as they start over.
Yes, I would try to leave yourself a little bit of some notes in terms of what went well or what didn't go well this year, with whether it's yourself preparing or you're working with someone. Like what types of communication went well? Would you like to hear more or less from your tax person? Would you like to hear from them earlier in the process, perhaps? Are they better at phone versus email or that kind of thing? If you're self-filing, sort of similar thoughts as to what types of documents you had to scramble for last minute. So maybe leave yourself some notes on trying to get ahead of that sooner. And then one very this time of year thing that I have in mind that I'm trying to recommend to clients is if you're doing spring cleaning around the house and you are bringing piles of stuff to Goodwill, perhaps.
Yeah.
They can give you a receipt and you kind of declare what the quote unquote fair market value or like thrift store value of those are. And those charitable donations are deductible on your return. And it's changing for 2026 relative to 2025. So for 2025, you had to be an itemized deduction individual or family, which generally meant you're probably higher income or you own property or different types of things. Whereas going forward, you don't have to itemize in order to get charitable deductions. So even if you have very little income or no other fact patterns going on, you'll be able to take charitable deductions. So if you're doing spring cleaning, you're going to Goodwill, keep the receipt. You'll be able to use it for your deductions next year.
And does that go for, because sometimes in May you see the charities around and whatnot. This is a big asking season. If you donate even just $100 or $200, that's something to save.
Traditional charitable donations as well. Maybe this is just a me problem, not cleaning my house for a couple months during tax season, but hypothetically, perhaps if you're doing some spring cleaning and donating stuff, then those contributions as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Switching gears here. So I don't know if you saw the Board of Regents here in New York. They are trying to change things up to support a wider channel to get kids to become CPAs.
Yep.
Apparently, I didn't realize this. There's a shortage. Why don't we first talk about the shortage? Are you noticing that in the field as well?
Yeah, there's it's referred to as like a pipeline type problem where depending on your favorite version of the stat out there, I think it's maybe like the AI CPA, so like an American Society of CPAs, so like nationwide. I think their stat was 75% of CPAs are within 15 years of retirement.
Whoa.
I think was the stat.
I don't know. Yeah.
Which 15 years is a long time, but still there's, even on a New York State level, you look at I'm involved with the New York State version of that NYCPA, and there's similar dynamics of, big chunks of the membership are in their 60s and 50s, and then it kind of goes down to 40s and 30s, and there's less and less the younger generations. So that is something you see in the field, is that it's harder and harder to get staff and that type of thing. But there is a very funny duality dynamics going on here where you can read plenty of articles along those lines that say like, oh, there's a huge pipeline problem and they can't get enough CPAs. And then depending on your website, you can go and look and they'll say like, well, AI is going to replace all the CPAs and we have too many as it is now. We're not going to need them all and this kind of stuff.
Right.
So there's funny, both sides think they're absolutely correct. And there's maybe some level of truth to both, but it's funny. You can kind of see the same fact pattern described completely opposite ways.
That is so interesting. So first, let me ask this. It seems like there may not be a huge shortage now, but they're really looking at a upcoming potential shortage more than anything else.
Yes, I would say that's fair. It's more of planning for the future than there's certainly plenty of opportunities for CPAs today, but I would not say it's a big problem yet. It's more of a future problem.
Yeah. And then as far as AI, we have had conversations with your fellow CPAs about this. And who knows, right? Like we don't fully know what impact, there are those that I've spoken with on this show who have said AI will likely complement what tax preparers are doing right now to make it easier for the customer and the firm. And then there's the fear amongst everyone, everywhere, that AI will steal your job.
Sure.
And one point that we've talked about, by the way, with CPAs is they do so much more than just crunch the numbers.
Sure.
They're there to advise.
Yeah,
And it's interesting when it comes to health and money. I think there's a lot of emotion attached to decisions, and I just don't know if an AI-generated program is going to help people through those tough decisions and emotional developments that they're going to have to make important decisions. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone is paying a CPA to help with their business or help with their taxes, to your point, a good chunk of that is they are paying to offload, like the expertise and the actual doing of the returns or the processes, that type of thing. But they're also paying for kind of the peace of mind and paying for like you handle the stress of doing this work while I kind of focus on whatever else.
Right.
And even if we get to a point at some point here in the relative near term of, can AI technically complete a tax return? Like, yeah, probably. Is it going to be the best right now? No, probably not. Is it going to be to a point where it offloads that stress for you and you trust it and it gives you guidance for the next couple of years and this type of thing? And that's sort of like the further down the road things that I don't see knocking on CPA's doors quite yet. I think people still want someone they can trust. They still want someone that they can offload that stress to. And I just don't know how long we are away from people fully trusting and offloading that stress to a computer.
Yeah, and also trusting any advice that they might have for someone. So on that note, with potentially kids who are sophomores or juniors in high school, and they might have to go get their CPA degree someplace. Why don't we talk about what does it take to become a CPA at this point?
Yeah, so to your point earlier, it is changing on a New York State level. Many states have gone down this path as well, and it's kind of what's old is new again, because these used to be the rules.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah. Fanny packs are back, and now these the new CPA holders are back.
They go hand in hand.
Right.
Naturally.
Yeah. We're going to cycle here. Yeah. Yes. So it's changing away from you need the 120 hours 4-year degree essentially plus a 5th year of specialized accounting knowledge, and there are specific rules on what types of courses qualify and all this kind of stuff. And then 1 year of experience working with a CPA.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the rules when I became a CPA. And what they're moving toward, and again, keep in mind, this is kind of on that pipeline problem. Fewer and fewer students were going down this path because it was an extra year of school, one less year working in the field. So it kind of costs money both ways there. And then relative to finance or analytics or some other types of roles, maybe you're earning more money in those types of roles anyway. So why would you pay more and spend more time in school for a degree that potentially paid less? So they're moving towards just a 4-year, 120 hours education requirement and just tacking on an extra year of experience on the back end. So it's still effectively 6 years towards it, but just trading 1 year of school for 1 more year of experience working with a CPA. So you can be eligible for it and start taking the exams right out of undergrad, but you still need to then have 2 years of experience working under a CPA is kind of where they landed on to hopefully open up more doors and more opportunities to the next generation of CPAs.
I know this answer to the next question usually requires a range, but folks who are done with those 6 years, what can they expect to make initially in their first few years?
Yeah, so I mean, to me, it's more of what you're making right out of school. It depends on the city and where you're living, that kind of stuff. Let's say it's here in Rochester. I would say $60,000 to $75,000 out of school, something in that
That's
range.
not bad.
And then depending on the firm or the company, a lot of times they'll help. They want you to become a CPA. They'll incentivize you. So they will hopefully pay for your study materials. And then particularly accounting firms who have a lot of folks on this boat, they will provide specific bonuses for passing the exam. So depending on the firm, that could be a few $1,000 up to $10,000 for passing the exam as well. So, but then your salary, I wouldn't think your salary itself would change that much right away when you become a CPA. It's more of getting in the door, and then you might get a bonus as a CPA, and maybe that opens up more doors down the road. But I wouldn't expect an immediate salary change just once you got the 3 letters after your name.
And then I've noticed a lot of CPAs. Well, let me step back. 20, 30 years ago, I noticed that a lot of CPAs would open their own smaller firms.
Sure.
Now I'm seeing bigger firms come in and
Yeah.
buy out the smaller ones, as we've seen
Oh, yeah.
in my industry and
Mhm.
almost every industry. So is that still an aspiration that people should have at this point, to have their own firm?
Yeah, it's funny. So there's dynamics on both sides of the equation here. So
Yeah.
if you go back, even in the Rochester market, there's, if you look at like some top 10 lists of what firms have the most CPAs, some of those are kind of those like national or global firms, and they're kind of their own category if they're global and billions of dollars. But
Mhm.
of like go back to, I think it was 2024, and you look at, of the top 10, 3 are the kind of the gigantic ones, their own category, and 7 were locally owned.
Yeah.
Last time I looked, 4 of those 7 have since been acquired in the last like 18 months
Yeah.
by PE or bigger national accounting firms, that type of thing. And then you add kind of the quote unquote pipeline problem. So there's a lot of very small firms where someone's been working there 40 years, and now they're approaching retirement age, and they can't really find someone to sell to or to offload the clients to because there's fewer and fewer people younger
Right.
than them working. But from the age of the internet and how available the information is and the guidance is and how good the technology is, in some ways, it's never been a better time to open a small accounting firm.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because there's a lot of thought leadership out there now. There's a lot of guidance out there now. So you have kind of more tools at your disposal, and you don't have to necessarily have local clients because you can exchange information. You can have, different virtual meetings, all this types of things. So you can pick a specific industry or a specific niche and have national or global clients. So in some ways, it's never been easier to start a firm. If you want to, there's folks looking to get out. You can acquire their business. And then on the top end of the spectrum, there's large PE firms that are acquiring the bigger firms, and they're kind of going down the size chain as they go. So there's opportunities on both ends of the spectrum.
I love this is the second time you've done it, and I appreciate the kind of dual perspective there that you're offering. And by the way, PE, private equity, I'm guessing.
Yep.
And then, so obviously, I mean, it's always tough when you ask high schoolers to pick a career. Rather,
Totally.
you almost want to say, like, what are you interested in?
Yeah.
Generally,
Yeah.
you've been around enough CPAs. When they are deciding on schooling, whether it's in high school or in college, what general interests, when it comes to professional interests, do they usually share? What are they good at in school?
Yeah. So, I mean, most people will say like, oh, you must be good at math.
Right.
That's not really the case. Maybe you have to understand the math, but like you're not generally doing the math yourself, kind of thing. So I think to me, it's more of, do you like solving the puzzle, and do you like kind of having a structure and rules under which to play to solve that puzzle? Because you'll have, a client will have a certain amount of inputs, and you have to figure out what's the best answer for them tax-wise for this year or future years, that type of thing. And we're all playing by the same rules. It's like, how do you problem solve within those rules? And then I would say there's more and more as different AI or different tools do more of the number crunching, data analysis type of stuff, then what becomes more and more important over time is kind of the soft skills of how do you communicate that message? How do you understand what actually matters and what doesn't? So to me, some of those soft skills is what's becoming more and more important over time. And I would say, and I'm a CPA, but I've worked in non-accounting type of roles at different points in my career. So I've kind of done more finance and advisory type of stuff. So even with an accounting degree, you can still bounce around and do a bunch of different things as well, just with accounting as basically the language of business, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. You got right into the next question. It isn't just doing tax returns.
Right.
We've interviewed many people, Olga being one of them here, who, when you have a CPA license, you can do a whole number of things. There's like 4 or 5 different, like almost categories, and we usually always just talked about the tax preparation. So
Yeah. I mean, you can work for a firm, so then you're helping a bunch of different businesses or individuals.
Yeah.
You can be a CPA for a specific company, so then you're just basically their money person within the company, depending on how big they are. So you can be a CFO.
Evaluations.
You can be in valuations in that case, for sure. I mean, there's plenty of different cases. You can go and then be CFO somewhere, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's plenty of applications.
All right. So my last question for you, because again, I'm glad we kind of broke this up between end of tax season and enhancing or changing the pipeline. What is life like for a CPA? I mean, are you working 80 hours a week? Is it confined to the 3 months of January, February, March, April? If it's 4 months, so
Sure.
3.5. What can people expect if they went full throttle into this career?
Yeah, so that would be specifically if you're working within an accounting firm as opposed to working for a company. I would say one other aspect of the pipeline problem is the perception there, which there's certainly truth to, for sure. But as talent has become more scarce, firms have had to adjust over time. So that means 1, paying more, or 2, providing better training. But then 3, it also means trying to smooth out that workload as much as they can to avoid the burnout you're describing of kind of loading up in a handful of months and that type of thing. So that might mean, do more and more clients extend? Do you work on different types of clients that might not need the same level of service in the beginning of the year, so then they need more work in the summer or fall or this type of thing? So firms have had to adjust to, as they compete over talent, to try to make the context in which people are working better. So maybe that's adding more staff. Maybe that's trying to smooth out that workload, so to speak. So if you are, particularly in Rochester, maybe it's a little bit different in New York or Chicago, that kind of thing. If you're working 80 hours, I promise there's a better firm for you. I promise.
Although some people might say, listen, let me get a bulk of the work out of the way in 3.5 months, and then...
Yeah, especially if you are like a self-employed, you're running a small firm, and that's kind of your choice, and then you have a boat or go play golf or whatever all the rest of the year. There's a path there for sure. But there's opportunities across the board.
Very good. Joe Greene, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, Joe Greene from Evans & Bennett, LLP, talking with us about the end of tax season, what you can do if you're realizing, oh my gosh, it's the end of tax season and I haven't filed my taxes. So there are avenues for you, especially with an extension right now, to help you out. And with that, I just want to thank you so much for joining us for this extra edition of Your Money, where we are, once again, trying to help you earn money, save money, and protect your money. All right, take care.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.